Pedro always believed that if he worked hard and was an honest person, everything would work out. For more than 15 years, he woke up before dawn to work at a transportation company. He was never absent, never late, and always did more than was asked of him. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. He had a loving wife named Anna and a 10-year-old daughter named Sophia. They lived in a simple house, but one full of love. Pedro used to say that you didn't need to be rich to be happy. All he wanted was to take care of his family. But life has unexpected ways of testing even the strongest people. On a typical Monday morning, Pedro was called into the manager's office. Upon entering, he realized something was wrong. The manager avoided looking directly at him. There were some papers on the table. After a few seconds of silence, the news came. The company was cutting costs. Several employees would be laid off, and Pedro was on the list. For a few moments, he was unable to utter a single word. 15 years of dedication ended in less than 5 minutes. As she left the company carrying a box with her belongings, she felt an enormous emptiness. It was as if part of his identity had been ripped away. When she got home, Anna immediately realized that something was wrong. Pedro tried to appear strong. He tried to smile, but he couldn't. The tears came before the words. That night, the family gathered to pray. Pedro asked for strength. He asked for directions. He asked only for an opportunity to continue supporting his family. The first few days seemed calm. He believed he would soon find another job. He sent resumes to dozens of companies. He conducted interviews. He spoke with former colleagues. But the weeks passed, and nothing happened. Savings began to decline. The bills kept coming. The anxiety grew stronger each day. Pedro would spend hours staring at his cell phone, waiting for a call, any connection. But the phone remained silent. 1 month turned into 2. 2 months turned into 3. The situation became increasingly difficult. For the first time in his life, he was late paying his electricity bill. Then came the water, then other accounts. The nights grew long. Pedro could barely sleep. While everyone else rested, he stayed awake staring at the ceiling. I was thinking about how to solve the problems. She was thinking about her daughter. He was thinking about his wife. I was thinking about everything that could go wrong. One afternoon, Sophia found her father sitting alone on the porch. She approached slowly. She sat down next to him, and he asked, "Dad, are you sad?" Pedro tried to hide it. But children notice things that adults ignore. "I'm just worried. My daughter." She held his hand. Mom said that God takes care of us when we are afraid. Those simple words touched his heart deeply. Even so, reality remained difficult. A few days later, the homeowner showed up. He informed them that he needed the overdue payment. Pedro asked for more time. The man agreed, but made it clear that he couldn't wait forever. That night, Pedro felt something he had never felt before: despair. For the first time, he questioned whether God was really listening to his prayers. The guilt appeared immediately. He always had faith. He always believed. But now he was tired, bruised, confused. The following days were even more difficult. A promising interview ended in rejection. Another vacancy was canceled. A third company didn't even respond. It seemed like all the doors were closed. Pedro started avoiding friends, avoid meetings, avoid any situation where someone asked about work. His smile disappeared. Your confidence, too. One early morning, unable to sleep, he went out for a walk. The streets were empty. The sky was dark. Pedro wandered aimlessly. When he realized it, he was standing in front of a small church. The lights were off. The place seemed deserted. Even so, he went into the courtyard. He sat down on a bench, and he remained silent for several minutes. He said nothing. He simply noticed the illuminated cross on the facade. Then finally he spoke. It wasn't a pretty prayer. It was not a prepared prayer. It was simply the venting of a tired man. "God, I don't understand what's happening." The tears returned. "I'm trying. I'm doing my part. But it seems like nothing changes." The wind blew gently. The silence continued. But something strange happened. For the first time in months, Pedro felt an unexpected peace. The problems haven't gone away. The accounts continued to exist. The job hadn't materialized yet. But that feeling was different. It was as if someone were saying, "Keep walking." Pedro returned home without answers, but with a small, renewed hope. He had no idea that, at that very moment, something was happening behind the scenes, something that would change his life forever. While he believed God was silent, a door was beginning to open, a door he would never have dared to imagine. And the first person to cross it was about to knock on her door the next morning. The following morning, Pedro woke up earlier than usual. Despite the peace he had felt in the church during the early morning hours, the problems continued. The bills remained on the table. The refrigerator was getting emptier and emptier, and the phone still didn't ring. He stood up slowly so as not to wake Anna and Sophia. He made a simple coffee and sat down in the kitchen. As she watched the sunlight streaming through the window, she heard someone knocking at the door. 3 firm taps. Pedro found it strange. It was too early for visitors. Upon opening the door, she found a gentleman she hadn't seen in years. It was Roberto, a former supervisor from the company where he had worked in his early youth. They were both surprised. "Pedro? Long time no see. Roberto? What are you doing here?" The man smiled. "May I come in?" Minutes later, the two were sitting in the living room. Roberto explained that he had recently returned to the city.
If you wish to deepen your knowledge of Jesus, the Gospels, and the Christian life, I have prepared a complete guide that can help you on your faith journey. In addition to the main guide, you will receive 3 special bonuses today. The ebook The Lost Parables, the Gospel Study Journal, and the guide The Hebrew Mindset. If you found this content helpful, click the first link in the description to learn more. I hope this material helps you further understand Christ's message and strengthen your spiritual journey.
During a conversation with acquaintances, he heard about the difficult situation Pedro was facing. "I always remember you as one of the most honest employees I've ever known." Pedro thanked him, but he didn't know where that conversation was going. Then Roberto made an unexpected proposal. He had started a small regional delivery company. The business was still modest, but it was growing. He needed someone trustworthy to help him manage operations. "I can't offer a high salary right now," Roberto said, "but I can offer an opportunity." Pedro felt his heart race. That was exactly what he needed to hear. But soon doubt arose. The amount offered was much less than he was earning before. Furthermore, the job involved risks. The company was new. There was no guarantee it would work. After Roberto left, Pedro spent the day thinking. Part of him wanted to accept immediately. Others were afraid. That night, he spoke with Anna. She listened attentively to everything. Then he held her hand. "Perhaps this is the answer you asked God for. What if it goes wrong?" Anna smiled. "What if it works?" That question kept echoing in his mind. 2 days later, Pedro accepted the proposal. On his first day of work, he realized that reality was even more difficult than he had imagined. The company had few employees. The vehicles were old. Resources were limited. Often, everyone had to help with tasks that weren't part of their job description. Pedro did everything. He organized routes. I served customers. He helped drivers. I was sorting documents. Some of his friends thought he was making a mistake. They said that someone with his experience deserved better. But Pedro decided to continue. The first few months were exhausting. The salary barely covered basic expenses. Even so, something was different. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was building something. Every day, I learned new skills. With each problem solved, he gained more confidence. Meanwhile, Sophia watched her father. She realized that he was still facing difficulties. But I also noticed something I hadn't seen in months. His smile was returning. One evening, during dinner, Sophia asked, "Dad, do you like your new job?" Pedro thought for a few seconds. "It is difficult. So why are you smiling more now?" He remained silent. I had never thought about that. Perhaps because, despite the difficulties, he had regained hope. Months passed. The company began to grow slowly. New customers appeared. Some important contracts were signed. Roberto began to trust Pedro more and more. I often asked for his opinion before making important decisions. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. On an ordinary morning, Roberto called Pedro for a meeting. Upon entering the room, Pedro realized the atmosphere was serious. There were several documents on the table. "I have some important news," said Roberto. Pedro paid close attention. "We received a proposal to take over a large logistics operation in 3 cities in the region." Pedro's eyes widened. It was the largest contract the company had ever received. But there was a problem. To accept the project, they would need to expand rapidly, hiring people, buy equipment, organize the entire operation. It was a huge challenge. "And what does that have to do with me?" Pedro asked. Roberto smiled. "Oh." He pushed the document across the table. Pedro picked up the paper. Upon reading it, he was speechless. It was an official offer to take on the role of operations manager. The salary was much higher than what he currently receives. In addition, it included profit sharing in the company. Pedro reread the document several times. It seemed impossible. Just a few months ago, he was unemployed, without prospects, and almost losing hope. Now he was facing the greatest opportunity of his life. Tears welled up again. But this time they were different tears. Roberto stood up. "I'm not offering this out of pity. I'm offering this because you deserve it. You helped this company get to where it is today." Pedro was unable to answer immediately. He remembered the night at church. He remembered the prayers. He remembered the times when he believed that God was silent. At that moment, he began to understand something. Perhaps God had never been silent before. Perhaps he was working behind the scenes the whole time, preparing something that Pedro couldn't yet see. But the story didn't end there, because along with the opportunity came an even greater challenge. A challenge that would put his faith to the test once again. And this time it wouldn't be about money. It wouldn't be about work. It would be about what he loved most in his entire life: your family. And the news would arrive a few days later, through a phone call that would change everything again. Pedro couldn't sleep that night. The promotion offer was still on the table in the room, like a dream that could vanish at any moment. He should be happy. And it was, but there was a strange feeling in my chest, as if something else were yet to come. 2 days later, while I was at work, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. He answered. On the other end of the line, a hurried female voice spoke. "Mr. Pedro, this is from the Central Hospital." His heart froze. "Mrs. Anna was admitted here a short while ago." Pedro didn't need to hear anything more. He ran away. The drive to the hospital seemed endless. His mind kept repeating the same words over and over. "God, please, no." When he arrived, he found Sophia sitting in the hallway, crying. A nurse explained what had happened. Anna had fallen ill at home. He suddenly fainted. They were still running tests. Pedro sat down next to his daughter and hugged her tightly. For the first time since it all began, he felt genuine fear. Not afraid of losing my job. Not afraid of money. Fear of losing family. The hours passed slowly. Finally, the doctor appeared. He was serious. Pedro stood up immediately. "Doctor, my wife?" The doctor took a deep.
If you wish to deepen your knowledge of Jesus, the Gospels, and the Christian life, I have prepared a complete guide that can help you on your faith journey. In addition to the main guide, you will receive 3 special bonuses today: the ebook The Lost Parables, the Gospel Study Journal, and the guide The Hebrew Mindset. If you found this content helpful, click the first link in the description to learn more. I hope this material helps you further understand Christ's message and strengthen your spiritual journey.
Breath. She suffered a mild stroke. Pedro felt his legs go weak. But the doctor continued. "The good news is that we arrived in time. She will recover with treatment and physical therapy." It was as if the air had returned to his body. But the battle was only beginning. Anna would need constant care. Consultations, medications, follow-up appointments. And that meant a complete change in the family's routine. That night, Pedro sat beside the hospital bed. He held Anna's hand in silence. Sophia was sleeping in a chair next to her. He looked at the two of them and asked himself a question that wouldn't leave his head. Why now? Just when things were starting to get better. Just when he had received a great opportunity at work. Everything seemed to be falling apart again. In the following days, the situation became even more difficult. Pedro needed to divide his time between work and the hospital. The fatigue was increasing. The pressure, too. At times, he considered giving up on the promotion. He thought about quitting his job. He thought about starting over. One afternoon, Roberto realized his condition. He called Pedro over to talk. "You're not well," he said. Pedro tried to hide it, but he couldn't. Then it collapsed. He told everything. The wife's illness, fear, the pressure, exhaustion. Roberto listened in silence. Then he said something that Pedro never forgot. "You didn't get here by chance. But perhaps this is the part where you'll need to decide who you really are." Pedro remained silent. That night, he prayed again. But this time, he didn't just ask for help. He asked something different. "God, what do you want me to do now?" The following days were the most difficult of his life. Ana started physiotherapy. He had difficulty moving. Some words still didn't come out clearly. Pedro tried to be strong, but inside he was broken. The job demanded more from him than ever before. The new operation was about to begin, and any mistake could cost everything. That's when an unexpected decision came up. Roberto called him again. "Pedro, the company is going to open a branch in another city. We need someone to lead this expansion." Pedro remained silent. It was a huge opportunity, but it meant leaving the city. Stay away from the hospital. Leave Ana for treatment. Roberto continued. "I'm not going to pressure you, but I need an answer in a few days." Pedro left the meeting with a divided heart. On one hand, his career was finally taking off. On the other hand, his family needed him more than ever. That night, he looked at Ana sleeping in the hospital. Then she looked at Sophia, tired but trying to be strong. And he understood something painful. There was no easy decision. There was only faith. And every choice would come at a price. The following morning, he made a decision. But before telling anyone, he walked alone to the outside of the hospital. He looked up at the sky, and he said only one sentence. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I trust in you." And then he went back inside to give an answer that would change the course of your life once again. Pedro returned to the meeting room with firm steps, but his heart was still heavy. Roberto was already expecting it. There was silence in the air. The decision he was about to make wasn't just about work. It was about his whole life. Pedro took a deep breath. "I've thought about it a lot," he said. Roberto simply nodded, waiting. Pedro continued. "I cannot accept a transfer to another city." Roberto remained silent for a few seconds. He seemed surprised, but he didn't interrupt. Pedro swallowed hard. "My wife is recovering. My daughter needs me. I can't be away right now." The room fell silent. Then Roberto stood up slowly. Pedro thought he had made the wrong choice, that perhaps I would lose everything. But then something unexpected happened. Roberto smiled. "That's exactly what I expected to hear." Pedro frowned. "Like this?" Roberto walked a window. "When you first arrived here, you were just a dedicated employee." He turned around. "But over time, I saw something else in you. Integrity, loyalty, character." Pedro listened in silence. Roberto spoke again. The proposed transfer was not a test of the company's growth. It was a test of priorities. Pedro felt his heart race. "We can hire someone else for the expansion," Roberto said. "But we can't replace someone like you." He handed over another document. Pedro took it. It was a new proposal. This time, it didn't require a change of city. On the contrary, the company was establishing a new headquarters in the region itself. And he would be responsible for leading everything, with an even higher salary, with flexible hours, and most importantly, with stability to take care of the family. Pedro was speechless. Tears began to fall without him realizing it. At that moment, everything made sense. Nothing had happened by chance. Not even the dismissal. Not even suffering. Not even the months of silence. Not even the night in church. Not even closed doors. Everything was being prepared, in silence. While Peter thought he was alone, God was arranging every detail. No rush, without noise, no immediate explanation, but with a purpose. Months have passed. Ana has fully recovered. Physical therapy worked. She started walking normally again. Sophia smiled again, just like before. And the house, which had previously been filled with worry, regained its peace. Pedro has taken on a new role, and for the first time in years, she felt balanced. I worked with purpose. And he returned home with peace in his heart. One evening, sitting at the table with her family, Sophia asked, "Dad, why did it take so long for things to get better?" Pedro looked at her and then at Anna. He smiled. "Because some things need to be prepared before they reach us." Anna held his hand. "Do you think God was silent?" Pedro thought for a few seconds. Then he replied, "No, he was working. But in his time, that night, Peter returned alone to the same church."
If you wish to deepen your knowledge of Jesus, the Gospels, and the Christian life, I have prepared a complete guide that can help you on your faith journey. In addition to the main guide, you will receive 3 special bonuses today: the ebook The Lost Parables, the Gospel Study Journal, and the guide The Hebrew Mindset. If you found this content helpful, click the first link in the description to learn more. I hope this material helps you further understand Christ's message and strengthen your spiritual journey.
Where it all began, he sat on the same bench. He looked at the cross, and for the first time, he asked for nothing. He simply expressed his gratitude, because now he understood. God has never been silent. He was simply writing a story bigger than Peter could comprehend. And what seemed like the end, it was, in fact, the beginning of the greatest blessing of his life.